How's it going, everybody? Good evening, Jersey. So how's everybody doing? We got anybody new here tonight? And if so, where are you tuning in from? Thank you, Jersey. Appreciate that. All right. So for tonight, I wanted to kind of continue on with like the little series we did some riffs from the 80s, and then we did some riffs from the 90s, and now we're going to do some from the 2000s, like so for the first 10 years, which was kind of the beginning of a weird time of music for me anyway. The next decade, the 2010s to 20s, is a really strange one for me, but I'll tell you why it was a weird one for me when we get there, if we get there. So as usual, there is a link in the description where you can download the tabs for the stuff we're going to be looking at. Hello, Rick. Welcome. How's the arm treating you now? So yeah, click that link, get your tabs, so we can get through these. And if you like the content stuff I'm doing, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. It does something for that whole algorithm thing, whatever that is. But mostly it just shows the guitar control people who own this channel that I'm doing a good job for them and that you like what I'm doing. All right. So the first one we got on here, I tried to pay a little bit more of attention when I did the one for the 90s. I mean, I did riffs that were from the 90s, but there was like kind of some things that I left out that probably shouldn't have been left out. There could be a volume 2 coming, who knows? But yeah, so at this, I wanted to kind of really get some of the things that were like really a huge part of that era. So Green Day, they came out, prior to that, in the late 90s, but in this era, I mean, they were kind of dominating everything with American Idiot was such a big hit for them. Anyway, this is Wake Me Up from When September Ends. And this is just like the main riff, like the main really recognizable part of it. And it's really cool sounding, I think. And it's one of those things that sounds a lot harder than it actually is. The timing on it is kind of weird, but we'll explain that when we start looking at it. So the first thing we got here, like it says it's a G5, but it's not the G5 like here, like you probably, would typically think. Oh, that's great, Rick. I'm glad to hear it. Before long, you'll be back to business as usual. Yeah, so this is, I mean, the same notes. We just got a different voicing. So we're here on the 5th fret of the D string, my 3rd finger, and the G string is going to be open, and the 1st finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. So on this, we're just going to arpeggiate it. So we're just going to be playing, the notes of the chords separately. So it's a pretty simple picking pattern. We just start on D, and we're going to go. It's cool. Oh, thank you, Josh. Welcome. Yeah, that's what I try to do. Is it for the 99% of the time it's teaching stuff. Sometimes we do some other different things, but yeah, usually it's teaching every Wednesday at whatever time it is, 5 minutes ago, wherever you are. First time? Great. Where are you viewing from? All right. So yeah, so we're on the fifth fret of the D string with your third finger. Oh, Miami. Nice. Uh, and the third fret of the B string with your first finger, and the G string is open. So the picking pattern, we're just going to go D, G, B. I'm referring to the strings. D, G, B, G, D, B. Now, the timing is kind of weird because you're playing eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3, and then we hit 1 and 2 and 3, and then we hit this one on the end of 3, but it's a dotted quarter note, so it takes care of the rest of the measure. So that's the first. In each measure it changes chords, but that's the first chord. That's the one that is played lots and lots of times throughout the song. Like the intro to the song is just that chord, like 4 times, I think. Then the verse starts, and it starts on that chord, so the same thing. So 1 and 2 and 3, 4, and I like to do it with just down, down, up, up, down, up. That's what works best for me. So this first part here is the first 4 measures. The picking pattern is exactly the same. The only thing that's going to change is this lowest note here, this bass note, is going to move. So on the first one here with the G5, we're on the 5th fret. Now the next chord, so I was going to show there's 2 ways that you can actually do this. This is how I do it. The next one, the second measure, it's a G5 over F sharp, meaning that we're just going to change the bass note to an F sharp. So I'm going to just do that by moving from the 5th fret to the 4th fret. So I use my second finger now. And again, it's the same picking pattern. Now, this next part is where it's kind of tricky, and there's an alternative way to play it that could make this part easier, but it could make it overall more difficult too. So you kind of have to decide for yourself. But what's going to happen now is that we're going to move this bass note from the 4th fret down to the 2nd fret, but the note on the B string stays the same. So you have to switch your fingers. So you could do it like with your first and second. I don't know why. For me, it's more comfortable to use my third finger. Maybe it's because it's like muscle memory that this would be like D suspended 2, but with your first finger down a string. So another way you could do it is that you could have so you put your second finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, then your 3rd finger on the 4th fret of the D string, and your 4th finger on the 5th fret of the D string, your 5th finger, and then your 1st finger on the 2nd fret. And then all you have to do is just lift a finger off. So then the last one is the D string open. So doing it that way could be easier, so you don't have to change your hand position, but kind of depending upon your skill level, how long you've been playing, this in itself can be kind of difficult to get this span on here. I don't play it that way just because I played it the other way so much that I have good muscle memory for it. I'm not concerned about it. So the way I do it, I change my hand position. So that's the first 4 measures. Then starting on the 5th measure, it's a C, but it's not this C, it's a bar chord. So in this case, all we really need to pick up is the 3rd fret of the A string. So I use my first finger to do that. Then you need to pick up the 5th fret of the D, G, and B strings. So I just use my 3rd finger. Now you could do it like this, or you could do it with your pinky, but I use my 3rd finger. I just think it's more comfortable for me, and that leaves my pinky free to, to do other stuff. So you hold this chord, and now we're going to do that same picking pattern that we were doing, but the only thing that's going to be different is that we're going to change which strings. So now we're going to go, and I'm naming off strings. We're going to go A, D, and then to B, G, D, B. Same timing as the other part is the. So I guess if you wanted to think about it, it's the first 2 notes have just been moved down a set of strings. So A, D, B, G, D, B. And I do the same picking. Down, down, up, up, down, up. Now the next measure is C minor. So I just switched to a C minor chord. So now I'm still barring here at the 3rd fret, but I'm picking up the 4th fret of the B string with my 2nd finger, and then the 5th fret of the D string with my 3rd finger, and the 5th fret of the G string with my 4th finger. Same picking pattern, same strings. And then back to the very first chord. So what's nice about this transition is that your ring finger is already where it needs to be for that first chord. It's on the 5th fret of the D string. So you just simply keep that finger there, remove your others, and move your first finger up to the 3rd fret of the B string. Now, if you do it the other way, the alternate fingering like that, then then that it won't work for that way. So I just, I would try both ways and see which way works for you. Everybody's different. There's not necessarily, there's no one size fits all thing for playing guitar. So that's the whole sequence. Brain fart, what to do? Then that would go back and do that again, and that's like the intro, the verse, the post verse. It's done quite a bit through the song. That's like probably a third of it right there. Those 8 measures. So that's "Wake Me Up When September Ends" by Green Day, a big hit from the 2000. First 10 years of the new millennium. So, does anybody have any questions about that or other guitar related questions? And if you like what I'm doing, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up button. Think about subscribing to the channel, all that stuff that YouTuber people say. And if you're just joining us, there's a link in the description where you can download the tabs. Very odd fingering. Oh, thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. All right. So for the next one, this is actually played on a ukulele, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that it's played. It was like the original recording is on a ukulele. But it's a "Hey Soul Sister" by Train. So this was another band that was like really big. They were never like one of my favorites, but they weren't. I didn't dislike them. I've taught several of their songs, to people, students over the years. But anyhow, this is kind of what's kind of neat about this is that it is, like I said, I think it is on a ukulele, but you can play it on guitar just by capoing up and into a higher octave, higher key, and you can kind of emulate that sound. So this is pretty easy to play. It's just basic chords that that you should, hopefully already know. And if not, we're going to go over them real quick. But we have C major, so third fret of the A string, third finger, second fret of the D string, second finger, open G, first fret of the B, high A string open. And then we've got a G. Now on this particular one, it doesn't really matter. You can play it whichever G you know. If you know G this way, or if you know it with the B string open, either way, it's just not a deal breaker. I mean, personally, I think it sounds better with the closed, the D there on the B string. A minor, and then an F. So now you could do it like the full-on F bar chord if you wanted, but I think that it sounds better just doing the top end, or like F over C. So if you're kind of new, F might be a chord that you have not either done yet, or you struggle with it. The B's and F's are like the hardest, in my opinion, from my observation of students, that they're the hardest ones for beginners to pick up. But it's pretty easy if you just take the C chord and just move your second and third finger up a set of strings. So now your second finger is on the second fret of the G string, and your third finger is on the third fret, and this is in reference to the capo, third fret of the D string. And your first finger not only is picking up the first fret of the B string, but it's also getting the first fret of the high E string. So you have to kind of bar it. So one way, if you're having trouble with that, is just roll in closer this way. So you're kind of barring more on the edge, the side of your finger, and not trying to be on the flat. You don't want your arm in this really awkward position. You just roll this way. You'll naturally kind of roll over onto the edge. And if you wanted to do the F over C, like how I tend to do it, is that I just move my third finger back up like I was doing C, and then put my pinky where it was, so on the third fret of the D string. That's the voicing that I prefer. So those are the chords. Now, it's got the timing for this is it's got this. So I don't know how to describe that, that groove that it's got to it. But an easy way to kind of break it up is it shows on the transcription to hit just the A string, or whatever string the root note is of the chord. But if you can hit just the lower part, the lower end of the chord, or you can even hit the whole thing if you wanted to. But the reason why I kind of like to have that on there, because then I know exactly where that where that downbeat is. I don't know, it's just easier for me to feel it that way. So I do it. So the one and it's weird as it's a dotted eighth note. So it rings out for the first 16th note of beat 2, and then you have three more 16th note strums. So if you think of it as like bass 1, 2, 3, 4. And I just kind of like to put that swing on it. And then you do that twice per chord per measure. So it's like 1, 2, 3. It's hard to count and play at the same time, but the first 2 beats, and then the next 2 beats. So now you switch to a G and do the same thing, but now the bass note is on the the low E string. Then into A minor. So now we're back with our bass note being on the A string again. And then the F. Now, if you do the F over C, you don't want to hit the A string and get that C as your bass note, because it, even though it's part of the chord, it kind of throws off the melody. So even if you do that, you still want to just try to hit the D string, which is where you're getting your F. And it repeats. All right, so that is Hey Soul Sister by Train. So, and if you don't have a capo, you can still play this. I mean, obviously you're not going to be in the same key, and it's going to sound quite a bit different, but you can just play you can still practice it that way, but to be in the key where they're in 4th fret. All right, so does anybody have any questions about that or any other guitar related questions? All right, we might be done early tonight. The next one here, it's got a serious typo on the title. This is Jeep sheep all day. It's supposed to be sleep, and instead of an L, it's a J, so it's like S Jeep all day. I used to know how to play that riff from Wild Cherry, but I can't remember it. It's funny that you even say that, because it's something that I just thought of the other day. I was like, oh, I need to revisit that, because I like that style, that, you know, like that kind of stuff. I think it's cool. And welcome, Jeff. I'm thinking maybe you're new, but maybe you're not. I'm like, my memory completely sucks. But anyway, this next one, it's Sleep All Day by Jason Mraz. Now, this in the early 2000s, and then from like the 2010s, you know, to 20s, like that whole indie kind of acoustic, you know, stuff became really, really popular. And Jason Mraz, even if it's not your cup of tea, I mean, I think he's awesome. I think he's a great singer, and a good songwriter too. And anyway, this is a really neat chord progression. So this is like something good to practice, just to get down some of these voicings, these bar chord voicings and stuff, and work on some of these changes. So the chords we've got in here, we've just got 4 chords for this progression. We've got a D major 7. Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. I love especially, this is the first voicing I learned, and I'd always play that. And then when I heard, I don't know, I really like this voicing. I just think it sounds really good. So anyhow, it's pretty easy to play. So here we're in D, so we're going to bar here at the 5th fret on the 5th string, because that's That's D. So your bar your first finger all the way across, and then put your second finger on the sixth fret of the G string, and then your third finger onto the seventh fret of the D string, and your pinky onto the seventh fret of the B string. Now, if you took your middle finger off, that's your dominant seventh chord. Maybe you already know that voicing, like for doing like B7. Uh, but since this is a major seven, the seven isn't flat, so we have to raise it up, and that is D major seven. And since it's a bar chord, it's a movable shape. So if I moved it, up a whole step, now I'm on E, it would be E major seven. All right, so we've got the D major seven, and then we've got a B minor seven. Now, if you see there, we got a B minor seven, then we have an E minor seven. So instead of using the same voicing, we're going to use a different voicing, even though they're both minor seventh chords. So for this B minor seven, we're going to root it here on the the seventh fret of the low E string. And there's a couple of ways you can finger this chord. This is the way I pretty much always do it. Yak fishing. I hope I'm not butchering that. I think that's what it is, yak fishing. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Yak fishing. Cool. Interesting name. Okay. So for this B minor seven, which again is also a movable chord, because it's not really a bar chord. I mean, oh yeah, that's right. Okay, I remember now. I remember that. That's like really cool. But yeah, I'm terrible at remembering the names. Like Jersey has been here probably since day one. I swear he was like here on the very first live stream, and he's pretty much here 99% of the time. And it took me like literally like 2 months to be able to remember that, because my memory just sucks. Okay, so this isn't a bar chord. I mean, I guess if you had the right shaped finger, it could be a bar chord. Yeah, that's right. Us old guys can't remember shit. That's right. All the notes are on the seventh fret, on the low E, D, G, and B string. So some people will play it like this, and I sometimes will play it this way, but typically not. Typically, I play it with all my fingers, and I think mostly that's because that's how I learned to do it initially, and it just, it was muscle memory that wasn't like inefficient, and I felt like it was still, that it was cool. It didn't really matter. Well, Jersey, you're not supposed to tell everybody that. That's not very good advertising for me. They're going to be like, this guy's been here for the beginning. No, you don't suck. You need to stop saying stuff like that. That doesn't help. So how I do it, so in this case, we're on the seventh fret. So I use my first finger to pick up the seventh fret of the low E. And then I use my second finger to pick up the seventh fret of the D string, and then my third finger on the G string, and my fourth finger on the second string on the B string. Now, you don't want to hear the A string or the high E string. So doing it this way really ensures that they are muted, that you do not, you're not going to have to worry about it. I mean, it would be hard to not mute them this way, but this is movable. So since the seventh fret here is a B, it's B minor seven. So if I moved it down here, it'd be G minor seven, because that's a G. Now, the other way you can play it, and a lot of people play it this way, and I do occasionally, is use your second finger to pick up the low E string, and then your third finger to pick up the D, G, and B string. So you get like that. Now, that's perfectly fine, easy to do. I just mostly do it this way, and like I said, it's probably just because that's how I did it initially. And I never had anybody correct me or tell me to do otherwise. So that's we got our first chord, D major seven, and then our second chord, B minor 7. Then we have an E minor 7. So we're going to move up. We're going to stay here at the 7th fret, but we're going to move up to the A string. So if you're doing it the way that I do it, it's really easy just to roll your finger up and bar. And now we're going to do the minor 7th shape. So if you don't know it, it's just your minor shape with your pinky removed. So I'm barring all the way across 7. My second finger is picking up the 8th fret of the B string. And my third finger is picking up the 9th fret of the D string. So that's E minor 7. And then A7. So now we're going to come back down to the 5th fret, 6th string root. So it's just your major bar chord shape with your pinky removed. And now it's A7. So we've got so it's really easy to make the transitions between these chords. Whoops. Except for I've got to remember which chords they are. So one thing that's neat too is when you're going from that E minor 7, if you just take that exact shape, move it down a whole step, and move everything down a string. Same shape. And all of those are movable shapes. So that's like the strum for it, is you kind of get that. Except I keep trying to go to the wrong chord. See, it's harder for me to try to grab it that way. All right, so again, I think it's a cool riff, and it was like a really, really popular song. But it's just a good exercise for changing those chords. So you could practice it there, then you could just transpose it. So this would be an easy song to transpose into another key because it doesn't use any open strings. So if you're playing with somebody and they're like, oh, can we bring that up a whole step? So instead of getting your capo out and putting it on, you would just do everything a whole step higher. So you get that. Or the same thing lower. Instead of having to tune your guitar down a half step, you just move it down a half step and play it. All right, so that is Sleep All Day, Jason Mraz. So does anybody have any questions about that? Or again, it's just guitar questions. It doesn't have to be about these songs or this era of music or whatevs. And as usual, tonight is brought to you by my fine friends in Canada. All right. Oh, the names of the chords. Hey, and Jeff, in case you didn't catch, there's a link in the description. You can download the tabs, and it'll have all of that info on there. But we had the first chord was D major 7, and then the second chord was B minor 7, and then E minor 7, and then A7. So I mean that's something you could play this as a play it as all open chords. So you can do D major 7 like that. You just bar across the 3rd fret of the first 3 strings. And then B minor 7, you could just do the shape like we were doing for the E minor 7, but 2nd fret. And then for your E minor 7, you could do, you know, the one like we did in Creep, and then your regular A7 like that too. So, you know, lots of different ways you could do it. Whoops, wrong way. All right. The last one we're going to look at is, so what key is that song in? So on your transcription copy, sorry, brain fart, it actually has the key signature on there. So we've got 2 when we play, when you look at these chords, the D major 7. So a major 7 has, or just a major for that matter, for a D has an F sharp in it. So we have an F sharp, and then we have an A7 which has a C sharp. So F sharp, C sharp. So we've got 2 sharps, F sharp and C sharp. So you would be A major scale, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, A major. All right, so this last one to look at here is the intro riff for The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. So this is like a kind of a cool riff. I thought this was kind of a cool band. There wasn't a lot of music. I mean, the older I get, it's like there's less new music that I like. I mean, there's still lots of new stuff that comes out all the time that I really like, but it isn't like how it was when I was younger. But this is one of the bands that kind of stood out to me. But this is kind of a cool riff to practice too, because you're going to be going through. You're going to be just playing 2-note power chords, but they're dyads. So we're going to have, instead of just major or minor, we're going to have, or instead of just having like a perfect 5th or a perfect 4th, we'll have major 3rds and minor 3rds too. So it's just like kind of a good exercise of going through that. And I think it sounds cool too. So the first one we've got is D5. So the 5th fret of the A string, 7th fret of the D string. But the transition we're going to make here in a minute is we're going to go from D5 to D. We're going to switch out the perfect 5th for the major 3rd. So that's going to move the note on the D string from the 7th fret to the 4th fret. So if you do this, use your middle finger to pick up the 5th fret of the A string, and then your pinky to pick up the 7th fret of the D string. Then you can put your first finger on the 4th fret of the D string, and then you're ready to make that change. So this is all palm muted, and it's just all, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and just all downstrokes. 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. So they change from the D5 to the D major on the and of 2. So you get this 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so that takes care of the first 2 measures. Then we're going to, starting on the 3rd measure, we're going to scoot our first finger down to the 2nd fret of the D string. And we're just going to play that note. I mean, you can get your other finger on there, but I found that it's better if I don't. But what it is that the next note is going to be we're doing a C sharp minor. So I'm on the 4th fret of the A string, which is C sharp, and I'm doing the minor dyad shape. And if you do not know what any of that stuff is, look on the channel in the live stream section and in the regular YouTube section. I've done probably 4 or 5 different things on dyads now, on you know, how they work and lots of different riff examples. But this is just kind of a cool exercise for doing that. So we got as I can start completely off wrong. So I hit that one and just that note, and then I drop my third finger in to grab the fourth fret of the A string. And that's starting on the downbeat of 2, 2 and 3 and 4 and then that also takes care of the next measure. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that is like, this is 8 measures long, so it's like the first half. All right, so then starting on measure 5, we're going to switch to a G5. So this is just the regular 5 chord like the D5 we did. We're just down a set of strings and down a whole step. So now I'm here on the 3rd fret of the low E string and the 5th fret of the A string. And I'm going to do that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and again palm muting, so the whole measure. Then starting on the 6th measure, a lot of you may not know what this means, but if you look at the chord, it has a G, and then it has like just a little circle after the G, like where, well, it's a lot small. I was going to say like where it would be like it said sharp, but it's, you know, to the right of it, but it's up higher. It's just a little tiny circle. Anyhow, that indicates diminished. So the diminished in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to flatten the 5. So that's the note on the A string in this case. So we're going to do 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then I just use my second finger, flatten the note from the 5th fret of the A string to the 4th fret, but still on the 3rd fret of the low E, which is very dissonant sounding, but it works really well for this. So we're going to hit that 1 and 2, and then on the end of 2, we go back to the regular G5. So it's like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then back to the original D5. And then the whole thing repeats because it's the, or wait a minute, no it doesn't. Hold on a second, I got to try to. Yeah, that's actually just the intro. So that's the whole thing. Like I'm just, you know, guesstimating the tempo. So more slowly, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 yeah, so I think that's the only part it does it is just at the beginning. Right. So yeah, so that is The Middle by Jimmy Eat World. So again, that wasn't like my favorite era of music. There's a lot of bands that came out then that I really liked, and a lot of bands that I like really had a heyday in that, you know, in that era, like, you know, like Green Day, you know, they really really blew up. I still I still really like Dookie. Their first album is still my favorite, but that's just me. All right. So does anybody have any questions about any of that or any, guitar stuff in general? And if you're just joining us, you have to watch the rerun to get the lesson, but there is a link in the description where you can download the tabs, and then the rerun will be available. All right, so hold on a second. Let me. Oh, wait a minute, they're not there. Oh no, you're fine. You're fine, man. Sorry, I closed the music off. Yeah, C, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D. Yeah, you are absolutely right. D major. I think I said A major, didn't I? Wow, totally my bad. But good on you. Yeah, you're right. It is D major, Jeff. I don't know. I don't know why I said A, other than probably. Well, no, I don't know why I said A because I make mistakes and I'm old and my brain's all fried. Uh, I'm somewhat of a late model, but high mileage. Yeah, that's why I like learning stuff like that, especially sometimes things that are outside from, because I primarily, like hard rock, metal kind of thing. Uh, but a lot of times, if you look at things, even though like the 1-4-5 progression is like kind of universal, sometimes you can play some of these other things and you'll see things just in a way that you never thought of before. It like way different than how you play. It can be kind of inspiring. It was like when I learned how to play Purple Rain, the progression on that is just way different than how I play. All right, so I would like to thank everybody that came out. I really appreciate it. I appreciate that some of you guys are here every week. 1625. Yeah, if you that progression is like if you play, like a G. So you have G major, then your sixth chord is E minor, A minor for the 2, and then D7 for the 5, and that's like doo-wop, and Earth Angel, Earth Angel. Like lots and lots of songs are like that. Yeah, it's the solo from Hotel California. I've been working on that for a future something or another that could be possibly on the tubes. Thanks, Jersey. Totally appreciate that. Yeah, so like I said, if you're just tuning in, there's a link in the description. You get the tabs. You can watch the rerun. But yeah, if you like what I'm doing, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. Think about subscribing to the channel. This isn't my channel. I just work here, and if there's lots of thumbs up and stuff and comments, then I think I'm doing a good job, and I can keep doing this. Oh, well, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it. And I'll be glad when your arm's completely better and you can get back to getting the full benefit out of everything. Oh, well, thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Really appreciate it. I will be here again. Well, I'm presuming that I'll be here again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, all that stuff. But again, thanks, everybody. You guys means the world to me. Sometimes this is like uh, stressful, to say the least. Anxiety inducing for me to do this sometimes, but you guys make it a lot easier. But thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. And I will catch you all next week. Hope everyone has a safe week and stay out of trouble. Peace out.